All right, hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because in today's video, I have a lot of financial reports from ZIM. Basically, what we're going to do is we are going to digest multiple financial reports from ZIM. I'm not going to go into detail about each. I have all the way back to 2022 Q2 earnings for ZIM, all the way up until the recent Q4 2023 earnings that ZIM just released. And what we're going to do is we are going to digest freight rates at those specific times, kind of see how much ZIM was able to bring in terms of net income, in terms of revenue. And we're going to judge that to see, will ZIM be profitable in the next quarter, in Q1 of 2024. So if that does sound good, I have a lot of articles about ZIM kind of talking about where they're currently at. I understand this is a channel where we do follow ZIM a little bit. And so I thought this would be a good video to make. And as you can see here, I actually uploaded a video about 2 hours ago. And so I'm recording on the exact same day. We still got 4,197 subscribers sticking at the same marker, but I wanted to make another video today. I'm going to upload it tomorrow, so you'll see this tomorrow, quote unquote. And just a video to go over the results of ZIM. I have every single quarter, so let's get into that without further ado. So starting all the way back in 2022 Q2, we had ZIM, and what we could see here is we could see some really key markers for in pretty much determining whether or not they will be profitable or not. We have the carrier volumes, which is a huge rate, how much they were carrying during that quarter. We have the average freight rate, which is also extremely important. And that pretty much helps us to determine the revenues and the operating income and the net income of ZIM in that quarter. So basically, when we look back at 2022 Q2, we had a carrier volume, which was 856,000 TEUs. Now, it's nothing crazy. That's, if you look back here, you could see it was 2021 where ZIM was actually carrying pretty much double that. But you could see here that in Q2 2022, under a million TEUs, because everything is to the thousands, you can see the average freight rate was very high though, about 3,500. And for this period here, if you look on the chart, if you look kind of past, I have my marker here. If you look straight above at 2022 and you move over a little bit, you could see that ZIM was kind of, this was all happening when freight rates were about 8,000 or so. So at about $8,000 is kind of the global shipping rate. ZIM was having their average freight rate at about $3,500. So about half of that. And even though they had low carrier volumes, their operating income was still 1.7 billion, and their net income $1.3 billion, which is actually not bad. ZIM currently is in the negative for their net income in their most recent quarter. And so you could see here that with freight rates high, even though they don't have the volume, they were still bringing in that net income. Now jumping to the next quarter, you can see here, carrier volume pretty much stayed the same, not much changed. Now you can see here that the average freight TEUs significantly dropped. And actually, this is hold up, this is out of order here. I'm out of order here. This should be over here. Sorry, there we go. Okay, so this makes more sense. Q4 2022, you can see that average freight carrier volume, the average volume for ZIM was about the same, a little bit less than they had in the previous quarter. And you can see here the average freight rates were dropping. This kind of goes off of the going towards the middle to the end of 2023 when it was about 5,000 to 4,000. You could see here that whatever the kind of global shipping rate is, ZIM is pretty much taken half of that. And so their average freight rate was about $2,000. And at this marker, they were still profitable by about 400 million, which is a significant marker. It's nothing crazy. And they were carrying a little bit less than they were previously. Now jump into the next quarter, we got Q1 of 2023. Their carrier volumes dropped once again. So now they're in the 769,000 TEUs. Their average freight rate significantly dropped. You could see here, it was at 2,100. Now it is currently at about 3,400 or so. And this is kind of the break even for ZIM. If they are carrying about 800,000 TEUs, their freight rate needs to be about $1,400 in order to be considered to break even. This is a loss of 58 million. I understand a loss of 58 million. It's not anything crazy, but I would consider this a break even point for ZIM. Now going beyond, you could see their carrier volumes increased into Q2 2023. Their carrier volumes went back up to about 860,000 TEUs, kind of where they were starting the year at. They were starting Q2 in the previous year. So you could see here their average freight rates fell once again, and they continued to become more negative. Now they were about $213 million negative. So you could see here, even though freight rates jumped significantly, the average freight rate has a significant impact on how much exactly the net income will be for ZIM. So that dropped about 200 points or so. Going to the next quarter, Q3 2023, carrier volume stayed the same. We had freight rates which dropped slightly less, and you could see here that there was a massive kind of indicator in the net income, 2.2 billion loss, but that was not a full loss. It should really be closer to about a $250 million net income loss, because ZIM they factored in the depreciation of their ships, and so that's why you see this. It was not necessarily a quote-unquote 2 billion loss for that quarter. It's more about like a $250 million loss, but the fact that they had ships that were getting old, they decided to put that in their net income statement. Now, moving over. Okay, beautiful. So we had two Q3s. That's why I was tripping up. The last one is Q4. This is the most recent. You can see their carrying volume went down slightly. We're now down to under 800,000, and the freight rates were at the lowest marker. So isn't it interesting how the freight rates have continued to drop? And when we look here, that was when just before 2024 happened. So freight rates were at 1,100 roughly. And you could see here the net income for ZIM was about $147 million in the negative. I think that's a pretty solid marker. And what I do think is that we have not seen this kind of bull run in freight rates, for example, in ZIM's Q1 2024 earnings, because this last quarter right here, Q4 2023, represents ZIM when the freight rates were down. Now, if ZIM was able to carry the exact same volumes it was in the previous quarter, which is likely so, they've carried somewhere about there, but then more in the past recent quarters. So I do think they'll be able to potentially carry in the 800s for this next quarter. You could see that the average freight rate should more than double than this, to be honest, because we had freight rates that were approaching roughly about $3,500 or so. You take that in half, you're looking at about a $1,700 freight rate right there, which I do think would put ZIM in the positive. So I do think for Q1 2024, ZIM will be in the positive in terms of their net income due to this big expansion and uptrend in the freight rates. So this was just a full digestion of ZIM's past quarterly earnings, and then leading all the way up to the most recent one, just to compare exactly how much they were carrying, how much the freight rates were, and then as well the income gain or loss that they were producing from those rates. And I do think at the current freight rates that ZIM will be able to post a positive net income in the next quarter. I think their carrier volume is going to stay roughly the same, if not increase, because I have a couple articles here saying that, ZIM, they're ordering about 33 more long-term chartered vessels, which would give them about 250,000 more TEUs of capacity. So ZIM's fleet should be able to carry more over time. That is not necessarily a concern. What is a concern is the freight rates. And freight rates, as long as they stay relatively high to the markers we're at here, I do think ZIM should be profitable. So this was a video on ZIM. If you guys did enjoy, please do remember to subscribe. We're up to 4,197 subscribers. I actually really enjoyed making this video. It's a video I wanted to make for a very long time, and so I'm happy we're able to do it. I hope this kind of gave you a little insight about ZIM and where I think it might be headed. And you guys can also comment down below, just kind of based on what we did, what you think ZIM's Q1 2024 earnings might be in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys do take care. I hope to see you guys in the next video. And yeah, have a great Wednesday, everyone.